Well, hello. You might have a business in New Mexico and you might have questions about doing your payroll. This video is going to go through, if you're running a business in New Mexico, what you need to know about withholding rates, about workers' compensation assessments, and also about accruing sick leave for your employees because it is mandated in New Mexico that if you don't start your employees out with 64 hours worth of sick time, you need to accrue 1 hour of sick leave for every 30 hours they work. And I will show you how we did that in this file. Basically, this is a payroll file that's going to really help you organize your payroll in New Mexico. It's not that expensive. It's 175 bucks for the year, and you'll be able to run as many employees as you really need. You can fit it up about 100 in here before this file really gets too big. So if you have a small business, especially under 20 or 30 employees, you'll be able to use this. Let's talk about what you need to do. Start here in the employee info sheet. After you've already determined what your pay cycle is, in this instance, we're doing a bi-weekly or somebody who pays every 2 weeks here. Once you have that set up, you're going to start putting in information for your employees. Last name, first name, social security number, which you'll need for filing state and federal W-2s. Okay, are you using a current year W-4? That's a W-4 from the last 4 years or more recent, not the old W-4. Get your employees on a new W-4. They should be filling one out. So your answer should be yes here. If for some reason it's no and you're using the old W-4, you'd put the number of allowances on the old W-4 right here. But get your employees on a new W-4 and you'll be answering some questions that are over to the right here that we'll talk about in a minute. Is your employee married? Yes or no? That can come into play potentially. So answer that question. State is New Mexico. There's no local or county taxes I'm aware of in New Mexico. This is for residents of New Mexico. Now you choose your New Mexico filing status. Your options are New Mexico single, New Mexico married, or New Mexico head of household. We'll choose single. Now here are the questions about your W-4 that the employee fills out. What is their filing status? We're calling this single, married, filing separately. Do they have any other income listed on their W-4? Do they have any deductions listed on their W-4? And did they answer the question about whether or not they work two jobs? Is box 2C it is called. Is that checked? Yes or no? If they work two jobs, they might click yes. In this instance, we'll call it no. And then also the amount of their dependents. This will be a number that is not like 1 or 2 or 3. It's not an exemption number or allowance number. It is $2,000 times the number of dependents you might have is basically the way that equation works. So this could be a bigger number like 2,000, 4,000, something like that. That would go in there. Next, these other items can be used but are not mandatory. They're helpful if you want to do some onboarding process and get information from your employees, you can fill that out. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on this sick days area. You have the option of applying a full 64 hours at the beginning of the year to your employee. If you don't want to do that, because you might have part-time employees or employees coming and going, you can accrue 1 hour for every 30 they worked. That's what this does. This is going to apply basically 3.33 times an hour. If you want to figure out, what is that in minutes, basically. That's going to be, I guess, 2 minutes of sick time per actual hour worked that they worked, which will result in 1 hour of sick time for every 30 hours they work. So that equation is in there automatically and will be working. So that is how you do that. You want to put in your unemployment rate for the state of New Mexico that will apply to the first $31,700 of wages. Whatever rate the state sends you, you would put that here. Okay, so now you're pretty much done with the employee information here in New Mexico. Next, you'll want to enter in daily hours here. This is where if they're going to use some sick time, you're going to put those sick hours that they use in the sick hour column. Generally, if they're just working, you're going to put the hours in the regular hour column. Choose their name, type the date. Choose the name from the list. It's going to be all your employees and type the date and the number of hours that they worked. It's pretty basic. And if there are any overtime hours, you would put those hours here, and that would multiply those hours times their rate times 1.5. Holiday hours that are paid would go here. And of course, the sick hours that they use would go here as well. So that's the daily entry sheet. Now you go into your pay period record sheet. This is where you have all the information for each paycheck for the employee. You have columns that you might use. You're looking at a pay period here. This is the pay period ending 12/30/23 that ends up getting paid in 2024. Does the employee have any additional federal tax you want to withhold or additional state withhold? You would put that amount here. Your hours come in automatically from the other sheet where you entered them in daily wise. So you get to see what a person's hours, employee's hours are for the period, and whether they've used sick time, what their total hours for the period are. You then put in an hourly rate. You can see that it'll show up in red if you have not put an hourly rate in for an employee that has worked hours during the pay period. So you'd enter the hourly rate in here. Or if you pay your employee in a salary, commission, bonus structure, where it's just a lump sum and it's not related to hours, you could put that amount here, whatever that is, in the bonus salary amount column. We have an area for garnishments, child support, things like that, that are deductions from the pay after tax. Area for reimbursements, which are non-taxable reimbursements if you're reimbursing people for expenses. You can put the check number if you write a manual check. We have areas for retirement, health insurance, all these possible deductions that you can fill in if you want to, but you may not use them. Now, once you've done that, you have your basic pay stub set up and your pay period set up. It exists here in the pay stub sheet. You just choose the pay period and choose the employee name, and everything updates. You also get to see what is your sick leave balance. How many sick leave hours has the employee already accrued, and how many do they have remaining? You'll see that as we look at future pay periods for this employee, at some point they used 8 hours when they didn't even have 8 hours of sick leave. So they actually have a negative balance if you allowed them to do that. That would show you if they've overused their sick time because they didn't have enough sick days. If you pay them for those sick days. You could also change how many hours, maybe they didn't have eight hours of sick accumulated, so you pay them for 6 because that's how much they had. That will change your cumulative balance of what your sick leave shows here. Pay stub is going to show everything. It's going to show your federal tax, your state of New Mexico tax. And New Mexico has workers' compensation assessment for both employees and employers. It's a very small amount of money. It's like $2.30 for the employer per quarter and $2 even for the employee. This payroll file divides that by the number of pay periods in the year to give you the amount that you withhold per paycheck. So that's what you see here. And that is also required in New Mexico. And if you'd like to know how the New Mexico state rates are calculated, the formula for that is deep in here. Figure out what the taxable wages are, multiply the gross wages for the pay period times the number of pay periods in the year to get your annualized gross wage estimate. And then here's the formula for calculating. It's an if-then statement. If you're single, I know it's a big formula here. I'll try to paste it in the comments below for those that would like to use this without having to retype it. It just shows you what level of income you're taxing, and the rates range from nothing under $7,300 for the year all the way up to about 4.9%. Sorry, 5.9% if over $217,000 for single. There's also a formula for married and a formula for head of household. And then it picks which status it was, and that's how you get your New Mexico state tax withholding. So I know that was fast, but this file has everything. It's got your 941 reports. It's got your state reports over here. It has a sample W-2 that you would use to fill out your W-2, pay stubs. And also it has a dynamic pivot sheet where you get to look at any item and sort it out and organize it if you need to query how much you've paid in any one of these categories. This is completely malleable and adjustable to include anything you want. So that was as quick as we could make it. If you have a business in New Mexico, those are the things you're going to need to take care of for sure. And this payroll file does do that. So good luck. Payroll is easy. We are making it so.